Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today I'm going to be talking about the best of cracked polish. As I'm sure you know, I created my best of mini series as a way to talk about some of my brand favorites, especially in time for the upcoming Black Friday, Cyber Monday kind of shopping season. And you may remember that I already did a best of cracked polish not too long ago, just a few months for their Memorial Day sale, but they definitely do release a lot. So I have a lot more favorites to talk about in today's video. As always, I will have timestamps in the description box for everything, but for now, let me just show you the best of cracked polish. So normally at the beginning of my videos, I talk about the nail essentials from the brands, and unfortunately cracked polish doesn't really have that many. They still are relatively new, where they only turned one, I think, this past September. So they don't really have any kind of base or top coats or like cuticle oils. As far as nail tools, the only thing that I think they have is a crystal file. And I have tried that before, but honestly, it is just not my favorite. I personally feel like it's a little too rough for my nails personally, which mine are definitely on the thinner side, like more brittle maybe, where they're prone to peeling. So I feel like the grit on the cracked nail file, along with a few other brands' files, are just a little too rough for me personally. I could see them being really good for like taking off length, for example, but maybe not for like fine shaping, especially when I had my longer nails, which were more of like an almond oval kind of shape. But if you have really strong nails, that might be a good file for you. And I think the only other thing that they carry that I guess would be kind of considered like an essential, at least it's not nail polish, is their sort of velvet style magnet. And I'm not sure how often it's in stock because I feel like anytime I've seen it, it's like sold out right away. But I have seen really great things about that magnet if you want like a velvet look with your magnetics. As I'm sure you know, I definitely prefer going with the velvet technique with my magnetics, and I don't have the one from Cracked. I just have like a regular kind of horseshoe magnet, which is from Amazon, but those can be kind of expensive too. So, you know, if you want to go for something that's a little bit more affordable, but still gives you a nice velvet result, that's another option that's available. So now getting into their nail polish, I feel like Cracked has a pretty decent variety of their finishes, but I think the majority of them are shimmers, whether they're iridescent shimmers, duochromes, multi-chromes. There are some other finishes as well, like metallics and flakies, and obviously like some creams and jellies, but I think the bulk of what I have at least are in like the shimmer kind of category. So I'm obviously gonna start with that since that's my favorite. And I know I mentioned at the intro of my video that I was kind of going to be talking about like newer releases sort of since the last best of video that I did, but I wanted to start with an actual oldie, which is Another Day in the PNW. I want to say this was from the launch collection, if not the second collection, which launched around this time last year. And it is just such a perfect, moody kind of gray with this shifty shimmer that goes from this greenish blue kind of color to this purple in extreme lighting. And I feel like this is just so perfect, especially for this time of year. If you don't know, Cracked Polish is based in the beautiful state of Washington in the Pacific Northwest. And this is just like Washington in a bottle. I even shared this one in my video that was like my curated collection inspired by my first time watching Twilight. I feel like this is just Twilight in a bottle. That blue-green shimmer that you see like in contrast with the gray, it's just so moody but so cool. I think this is just such a beautiful, beautiful polish that I didn't talk about in my first video, probably because that was more like spring summer focused with like a few dark shades, but I had to include it in this one. The next polish I have is actually a charity polish, and that's called Fight. This one came out a couple of months ago and it benefits the Seattle's Children's Hospital, if I remember correctly. I definitely am always a fan of a brand releasing charity kind of polishes. I love the idea of giving back to the community, but honestly, I don't always love the actual polish. So when that happens, I'll usually just, you know, donate to the cause and then just not get the polish. But this one I feel like is so worth it. It is this incredibly dark and moody teal kind of jelly base that is just packed with this intense glowy shimmer that shifts from green to aqua to cobalt and even to indigo in very extreme lighting. I know I've mentioned it already in a couple of my videos that I have just been really craving these like peacock kind of blues, and I feel like this is a peacock feather in a bottle. It is just so beautiful, so iridescent. I can't get over just how shifty it is. I'm just such a sucker for these colors. They like literally have me in a chokehold, so I had to talk about this one. If you haven't picked it up already, it is such a beauty. The next shade I have is Leather Bound, and this was from the somewhat recent Page Turner collection. And this is like a really dark but kind of warm brown multi-chrome, or maybe duochrome is like a better way to describe it, because as you can see, it has this like really warm, almost fiery kind of coppery red shimmer, but then in extreme angles, it does shift to this yellow, which admittedly isn't my favorite. I kind of have like a weird thing with like yellow leaning browns, but there's something about this one just being like a little bit warmer that I find so much more flattering, because when this initially came out, I was immediately reminded of the one Mooncat brown multi-chrome, and I didn't really love that one. So I was like, you know, on the fence about this one. But then once I tried it on, I was like, what is so different about it that I just like really enjoy how it looks? There's just something so beautiful, warm, and cozy about a really dark but sparkly kind of brown. This next polish that I have, I actually don't remember when it launched, but it was in like the past couple of months, and I had to pick it up because it's inspired by my favorite soda, that's Dr. Pepper. This is 23 flavors, and it is just this beautiful red, kind of metallic shimmer, I'll say. It really does look like the can on your nails. It is just so impressive, and I'm not really, I know I said that Dr. Pepper is my favorite soda. I don't really drink it all that often anymore, and so since I don't drink it super often, I was like, okay, well, at least I can wear it on my nails. And I just absolutely love this one. And you guys know I'm like not the biggest red nail kind of lover. Maybe it's because the holidays are like right around the corner, and that's when I usually would wear more red, but this is just such a beauty. I was so in love with wearing it, and I just can't wait to wear it again. I guess this next one could also be considered kind of a metallic or like a shimmer metallic formula as well, because I feel like finish wise it does look pretty similar to 23 flavors. This one is Nuclear Coolant, which just came out in the Toxic Wasteland collection last month. This is such a jaw-dropping, gorgeous shade of blue. It is just so incredibly vibrant, and I love that subtle glow that it has. Where again, these last two shades, I feel like the shimmer is just so much more finely milled. It doesn't have that same like speckly shimmer finish. I don't know if I would really consider them like pearly, but they almost have this like metallic sort of sheen to them, but they're not incredibly opaque like a lot of metallics I find usually are, if that makes sense. So either way, the formulas on these are really nice, but it really is like the color that just knocks my socks off. It is so freaking beautiful. I know we got a couple of these like super intense cobalt sort of blues this year, but there's just something about like the finish of this one that I find so flattering. And the last shimmer that I have is actually a sneak peek for the upcoming Cracked collection. I won't spoil the rest of it except for this one. This is Christmas Pickle, which admittedly I feel a little on the fence about the name, but the polish itself, stunning. It is a super dark green with these multicolored glitters. To me, I see a lot of gold, but I also see these little flashes of like red and green glitters, which was so hard to pick up during my live swatch. I tried to get a clip at the end where it's like very out of focus, but they kind of look a little like orangey. So just know in real life, you see these beautiful flashes of red micro glitters, and it is just so perfect because it just makes for the perfect holiday green. The green shimmer shimmer that you see here head on also does have this like really subtle shift to blue in extreme angles. So it does have like a little bit of a duochrome vibe, but it still definitely feels very Christmassy, winter holiday season appropriate. And I just love how sparkly this is. I had to get Monique's permission to share this one in this video because obviously this collection has not come out yet. It hasn't even been announced. So, you know, I won't be saying much more, but I will be having a review video for this soon enough. And I'm really excited to share them all with you, but I just had to include this one since it is a new favorite. So moving on to the cream finishes, I have mixed feelings about Cracked Polish's creams because I feel like it's the same kind of gripe that I have with other brands that I've talked about, like Holo Taco or Island Pea, where I just unfortunately feel like not all of the cream finishes are consistent in their formulas. So some of them are very creamy and full coverage, almost opaque on the first coat, which I definitely prefer. But then others are on the slightly more crelly side where they're just a little bit thinner, almost with this buildable kind of formula where you can get it opaque in 2 coats, but sometimes there are some creams that need a 3rd coat to get fully opaque, and that's where I get annoyed because I personally feel like creams should be a 2-coater max. That could just be my own personal preference. So when it comes to the creams that I love, these 2 are from the Italy collection, which I guess in general, I do love that collection. I would say my top pick for a full coverage, creamy, opaque finish is Rooftops in Bologna. This one is described as a rose tan cream, and I really love that. Like, I know that this could be considered a very boring, neutral sort of shade, but I just really love those sometimes. I think they can be so elegant and just so classy and clean. I know this one specifically is almost a little too close to my skin tone, which can sort of look like that uncanny valley mannequin hands sort of look, which I know not a lot of people are a fan of. I personally don't mind it so much, but I feel like because this one is described as like a rose tan, it has that slightly rosy pink undertone that just really warms it up and makes it so much more flattering in my opinion. And the other shade that I have from the Italy collection is Delicacy in Sardinia, which I would consider to be a little bit more on the crelly side. You might be able to tell on the first coat that it is just a little bit more sheer or like thinner, where you can still see through to my nail line. There's almost this little bit of squishiness there, but this does build up beautifully and fully opaque for me on 2 coats, which I would still consider a cream. And this one is just so beautiful. Like, I love this rusty red orange color. This is inspired by the authentic and fresh pasta sauces in Italy. And while I don't always love like food related or inspired nail polishes, there's just something so delicious about this. And probably because if you saw my fall favorites video, you know that this like rusty, warm, red orange kind of shade is just my favorite this season. So while I didn't include this in my wheel this year, it definitely fits in with all the others that I shared. So yeah, like I mentioned at the beginning of this portion, when it comes to cracked creams, I just find them to be hit or miss, unfortunately, where even though I can be forgiving of some that have a little bit more of like a crelly formula where, you know, they're opaque in 2 coats, that's fine. But there are some polishes that I find are a little too crelly, maybe, like they just don't self-level the best and I need 3 coats for them, but they're still described as a cream. It's just not my favorite. So I would say the worst offender in like the most recent times is probably Where's My Bliss from the Beach collection over the summer. And that was such a letdown because it is such a beautiful color. I just personally don't love the formula on that one. And actually, even with the Italy collection, there is that one shade called Pistachio Butter, which was not my favorite, but mainly because of the color, which, you know, shouldn't be a surprise. My little pet peeve about that shade was how sheer and like it was a jelly, but it's described as a cream on the website. That just kind of grinds my gears and it makes me, you know, want to let you all know to not only double check the website for the descriptions, but also again to double check any kind of swatch videos that you see, so that way you can actually see how something applies. Because again, if I'm just going off of the website and I'm reading, oh, olive green cream, I'm envisioning or expecting a specific kind of formula, but if I actually get what pistachio butter was, I feel like I would be a little disappointed in it. And to be fair, I don't know where the line is of like, you know, what my expectations are versus what I'm actually getting. Because again, we all have these different preferences and even just different application styles, I guess. Because going back to Where's My Bliss from the summer, I remember watching Caitlin's review video of that collection and just being completely floored at how smooth hers was, where I'm pretty sure she only needed 2 coats and it was fully opaque. But the main difference obviously with like our reviews or experiences of that polish is that she has like super tiny nails, and when I first tried Where's My Bliss, my nails were a lot longer. I also swatch on my thumbnail, which just has more space, so it's gonna be a little bit different. Not to mention the difference in how we apply our nail polish, where admittedly I'm very heavy-handed. I can be a bit of a messy swatcher. My hands shake sometimes, so I'm not gonna have the lightest, most elegant kind of application the way that Caitlin does, for example, where I feel like she's really good at like floating the coats on and not overworking the polish too much. Everything just looks so flawless on her. So it's just a reminder to watch as many people as you can, so that way you get the best idea of what the application experience might be, especially if you know what the person's preferences are. And lastly, getting into the jelly polishes, I don't have a lot of jellies from Cracked. I feel like they only started doing a jelly of the month in the last couple of months, and I've only picked up 2. But the first one that I have is actually from the Italy collection, and that's Chinotto. This one is described as a dark, warm brown jelly, and you can definitely tell from the first coat just how much more sheer it was compared to the other shades that I shared from the Italy collection. And I just really adore this one. I just love dark, warm browns so much. I find them to be super flattering, and this one I feel like can be a little bit of a chameleon, where some swatches I feel like you really see that like red undertone coming through. It could also depend on like the lighting, but I feel like on me this does lean more of like a really dark brown with like a little hint of warmth. But some photos, I'm telling you, I feel like look a little bit more red. And I love that. I love how it's just kind of this chameleon of a shade. This is a super beautiful shade, and with a really easy to work with formula. I would say this definitely looks the best on 3 coats though, just to intensify the color. Then for the jelly of the month kind of releases, the most recent one that I grabbed was for October, and it's I Yam What I Yam. And I love this shade. It is just giving all of the like pumpkin spice, caramel syrup, sweet potato kind of vibes, and it is just super gorgeous. And this was my second jelly of the month that I tried, but I was super curious about how the formulas are on these, because as I'm sure you know, when it comes to the nail polish market, Cirque definitely dominates like the jelly finish. There's only a few other brands that will offer some jellies. So I was really excited to see Monique do these jellies on a monthly basis, alongside with like including some in some collections like Chinotto. And yeah, I'm just generally really impressed with the formula. It is not as sheer as some of the jellies from Cirque, for example. I feel like this definitely had more pigmented coverage on the first coat, and it was very even. It's self-leveled beautifully, and you get a lot more coverage on the second coat as well, where there's like a little hint of nail line, but it's still very squishy like a jelly. So yeah, I just really love this one so much. I can't recommend it enough, especially for the fall season. And the last jelly that I have is Bubblegum Yum Yum. This I think was the first one that she introduced, and of course I had to pick it up because it is just this super bright bubblegum pink jelly. I was just so curious to test this out, especially just for the formula alone, but especially like the color compared to other jellies and kind of pink sheers in general. But I'm sure you can see that this one definitely has a lot more of that pigmentation. So I personally wouldn't use this as like a base for negative space nail art, but I mean, you can obviously do what you want. I think this is definitely a really great option if you want like a squishy, buildable pink. I really loved how this looked in 2 coats. I think it's just so sweet. I love the name. It is adorable and a must-have if you're a pink lover. So yeah, overall, when it comes to the jellies from Cracked, I think I like them. I feel like it's hard to say because there's like sort of an inconsistency here too, where Chinotto was definitely super sheer compared to the other 2. And I think so far there's only one other jelly that came out, I think called Rolling in the Deep, which I hadn't picked up yet because I'm just on the fence about it. I think I want to see like what the November jelly of the month is gonna look like, and then maybe get both of those for Black Friday, because ideally I would love to see like how these compare to Cirque's jellies as like a better, more affordable alternative. Again, I feel like formula wise these are really great, and they offer a little bit more pigmentation, so they're not as sheer or glassy as some of Cirque's jellies, because I think the majority of those are definitely on the very translucent jelly side, but there are a few that are a little bit more buildable, almost having this like milky quality, which I guess Bubblegum Yum Yum is a little bit more on that side. So yeah, so far I have been impressed with the ones that I've tried, and I just can't wait to see what else she comes out with. So that wraps up my best of Cracked polish. As always, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on all of my favorites. I would love to know if we have any in common, or of course, let me know if you added any of the ones that I shared today onto your wish list for Black Friday. I feel like Cracked has been killing it, especially the past couple of months. I admittedly, like in the beginning was like, okay, yeah, you know, these are really nice shimmers. There were a few standouts for me, but I feel like the collections over the last couple of months just felt so cohesive and beautiful. Like I just loved those themes and the color palettes. And I feel like especially in the last like 2 months or so, Monique has done so much more with the brand, where she is included in HHC. I feel like most recently she included a post about being in PPU next year. She's collabed with other indies on the market to do these like duos. She does these charity polishes, these Facebook exclusives. So there's definitely a lot that she does, and unfortunately I don't get everything that she does, which, you know, I totally understand. She has to prioritize like her swatchers. But yeah, I just have been such a fan of what she's been doing lately, and just all the success that she's gotten so far is so well deserved. So if you want to shop Cracked Polish, as a reminder, I am an affiliate with them, so I will have my affiliate link in the description box down below. And in very exciting news, Monique also changed the affiliate code from being a one-time use to being unlimited. So if you have used my code before, you are able to use it again and again and again and as many times as you want. And I am just so excited for that, because even just as a consumer myself, one-time use codes can be so frustrating, because then you have to keep track of like how many people there are who have codes and like which ones you used already. So yeah, I'm really excited that she was able to do that. So my code will be in the description box as well. But yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed this video and me talking about my favorites. I will have the first video that I did linked in the description box and in the end card as well if you want to check that out. But I hope that you like this video, or leave me any and all thoughts that you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!